Hawking bot. Superman 4 was a few years after the disappointing travesty that was Superman 3. The Salkind brothers, who owned the rights, were done with the franchise, and they sold their controlling stake to the Canon Golden Globus Group. Golden Globus tempted Christopher Reeve back with a promise of a second, less fresh adaptation of Superman to get it back on track. They then slashed the budget throughout the production, and Superman 4 as we know was born. So, what's good? Well, Superman 4 does have some good things in it, surprisingly. Firstly, the story is, special effects aside, a pretty good romp. The anti-nuclear war story, although a tad dated now, fit the time it was made pretty well. What would Superman do? Interfere? Or let the world sort its own problems out? It's an interesting problem for Supes to consider. Christopher Reeve is at his usual dignified best, taking the material seriously and coming across well. It's a nice touch for what budget they have to fly Clark out to the actual Smallville location. It's good to see Gene Hackman back as Lex Luthor. I really can't imagine anyone else in this role. He could play this character on a bad day and still shine. Webster, who? Luthor and Superman scenes, verbally jousting, are the best thing in this film and invoke shades of the original Superman. Superman works best when he is up against a fellow supervillain, for me. Someone with the same or greater powers. So for the most part, Nuclear Man as a threat works, at least in principle. It creates a bit of tension, which is usually difficult to write, when the hero is nearly invincible to everything. Superman comes across as a citizen of the world in this film. More than any other, he rescues Ruskies, helps the Chinese, and Italians. I mean, I know he went to Paris in Superman 2 Lester Cut, but in this film, he comes across like he had more than just America's interests at heart. Some of the action scenes, special effects aside, are really inventive. When Supes stoops Nuclear Man into the lift and pulls it out the roof. Nuclear Man pounding Supes into the surface of the moon. Supes pushing the moon over the sun to incapacitate Nuclear Man.
Bad vibrations?
The first thing that hits you in the face about Supes 4 is the shoddy dramatic flying screen wipes for the titles, like the first two Supermans, but more low budget. Still, they are better than the slapstick. One catastrophe after another. Opening to Supes 3. There's a lot of bad things here. Hokey special effects. So-so acting. Bad continuity. Logic goes out of the window entirely. The low budget really affects what on paper could have been a great Superman movie. Some of the setups try to borrow from the old Superman for a cheap nostalgia kick. The interview. Like the first film, the borrowed scene of Supes and Lois flying together, but done not as well, which come at a random point in the film and feels totally out of place. Talking of out of place, the continuity is totally out of sorts. They go from Metropolis to San Francisco to the Arctic in the blink of an eye. I know this guy is faster than a speeding bullet, but come on, how about they fly over Naboo? Tatooine? Or LV-426? The same obvious special effect of Supes flying into the camera is used over and over. Supes collecting up the world's missiles in a big hairnet is stupid. I mean, Earth aren't going to shoot every missile into space. There will always be some missiles hidden away in silos somewhere. He can't possibly collect them all in space. The execution of the action scenes seem to have really suffered. On paper, Supes chasing and stopping a runaway tube train could have looked as good as when he stopped the falling jet plane. But he just stamped his foot and the train stopped. Nuclear Man on the rampage. Just looks a bit cheap. Not a patch on Zod and Company tearing up Metropolis. And what's with a horrendous mullet and gold and black spandex? Those big gold nails? This guy is too 80s for the 1980s. Chris Reeve looks a bit pale and thin in this. Like you could snap him like a twig. And sometimes you think Nuclear Man might just do that. Not like Superman 3, when he bulked up to his biggest in the series. Beefcake. However, Supes looks a bit bulky around the waist in Supes 4. Not because he was putting on weight. Because his flying harness was obvious. He wore a similar harness in the original films. But it was hidden by a combo of camera work and the red cloak. In 4, they just don't seem to try and hide the strings. Still, least it doesn't make Supes look stupid. I mean, when drunkard Lois wears her harness, she looks like Quasimodo. Margot Kidder is starting to look a little haggard by this film. But she wasn't even 40, especially alongside the younger Mariel Hemingway, and seems for the most part to be completely drunk when delivering her line.
Looks like my father used to look when he went to the bank to ask for a loan.
Maybe with a lack of budget. They paid her salary in hooch.
This is my nephew, Lenny. He worships me.
It's never confirmed what the point of Luthor's nephew Lenny is in this film. If it's to provide comic relief, he failed. He just spouts a lot of annoying lines in that kid-shuffle surf dude type way.
The dude of steel. Boy, are you gonna get it?
Poor Perry White looks like he has dementia, and I firmly believe he did not know he was starring in a Superman movie.
Mr. White, don't do anything rash.
There was a reported half-an-hour cut from this movie, which would have improved the film, you say. Well, not really. When you actually see one of the pivotal drop scenes, the first incarnation of Nuclear Man, you understand why it never featured.
Come on, boy. Come on.
What's with that awful music? Lacey Warfield in space. How can she survive being taken into space by Nuclear Man? Is she a superhero herself? Shouldn't she turn inside out and explode? Supes destroying Nuclear Man in the nuclear power station. Why did this kill him and not power him up more?
I spared no expense to make you feel right at home.
Location work. The fact this film was shot in Milton Keynes in the UK, which was supposed to double for New York/Metropolis, makes it look really cheap, and limits the scope of what they can show. That's why the outdoor scenes are close in and looking down, as not to betray the fact it's not New York. The only time you see actual New York footage is through blue screen effects. The rest of the time, it's quite clear they are in great old England, like when Lex is driving down a very English motorway on a grey day. The scenes in the UN building are quite clearly in a town hall.
I'll introduce him to his first nightmare. A nuclear man. He'll pierce his skin. He'll make him mortal. He'll become sick. We'll dance on his grave.
Nuclear Man. Mark Pillow does a pretty good turn as the fashionably challenged He-Man lookalike. He doesn't have any lines in the film, as Gene Hackman provides his voice, so he comes across with a bit of menace, even if his lines are just saying,
Destroy Superman now.
Over and over again. He is muscly and tanned, and even puts Reeve in the shade a bit. His big gold nails are just too gay though. I wouldn't want to scratch off of them though, especially if they make me look like this. But his fatal flaw of being solar powered is completely his undoing. I mean, they shot this in England where the sun never shines, so he should have not worked at all.
Get to the point.
Conclusion. Ultimately, on paper, Superman 4 sounds really good, and with a better budget, could have been a really good Superman movie. But the lack of money really shows in places. The dodgy English fill-in locations, the poor special effects, so acting, dumb logic. It just adds to a general underwhelming feel in this film. The majority of criticism needs to be leveled at Can and Globus. who believed they could fool us with a movie trading on the Superman name. They promised Reeve a directing credit on Superman 5 if he appeared and if 4 did well. He even said in his autobiography he knew he was making a big pile of shit. But it was always destined to fail on a shoestring budget. It doesn't feel like Superman. It feels like Supergirl. It's Chris Reeve and Gene Hackman I feel sorry for, who still shine, despite the odds against them, and it is sad that their last on-screen appearance together is in Superman 4. All that said, I find that 4 is better than Supes 3, because at least it sticks to the tested formula of Supes 2, and doesn't attempt to divert by having Superman get drunk or intimidate women, and has a kind of rough charm to it. Some good humor, the odd interesting action set piece, because if you look past all of the shit, then you still have a really hopeful Superman movie, with a message, at least on paper.
Good night, sweet prince. Parting is inevitable. Come on, big boy. Fine.